I have a joke. You guys want to hear my joke?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does a space cow say?
Moon.
Moon. Amazing. Can you hear the applause? That's where I'm at today.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Reel Weirdos. Today we're talking about Moon from director Duncan Jones, who is a lot of people know this, but he's David Bowie's offspring.
Uh-huh.
And he's a director who, in the course of 4 movies, has gone from a director to watch to a director to stay the absolute shit away from.
Disagree.
In my opinion.
Disagree
Ooh,
fully.
Really?
It's going to be fun.
I fully disagree.
So, we'll talk about Moon, which is great. But just to explain what I'm talking about, which won't take long because there's only 4 movies. Moon is great. Source Code, pretty good. Warcraft, I know, Jeff, you like it because you're a Warcraft fan, but objectively, it's not a very good movie.
Agreed.
As not a fan,
Agreed.
I had no idea what was happening.
Yes, it's a fan movie.
But it wasn't loathsome
Yes.
like Mute, which I watched, I think, yesterday or the day before. Mute is a loathsome film.
Yeah. Mute's terrible.
It's like a cyberpunk thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it just gets completely sidetracked with awful characters. It handles the concept of pedophilia in a very off-putting way, and is just generally a mess that makes you feel bad for watching it and has nothing to say or add to anything.
Well, that's a review from Mute, folks. Little quick
Yeah,
review.
that's my review of Mute. I wanted to watch it because I've seen 3 out of 4, and I was like, hey, let's just complete the quad. So he's on a continual sliding down on the scale for me. So Jeff, why do you disagree?
Well, I just think that if you make 3 out of 4 movies that I like, then you're good in my book. That's just numbers to me. Like, I really like Moon, obviously. That's why we're talking about it and why I chose it. Source Code was fun. It's not a very memorable movie, so it's kind of a come and go, but it was fun. And again, you're totally right. I am a Warcraft fan. I played WoW most of my life. Play a lot of Warcraft. There's our video game reference for the episode. Check.
Nerd.
And so it's Warcraft is probably what I would consider the most expensive fan film ever made, but it's not objectively a digestible film or a film for the mass populace. It's a film for Warcraft nerds by a Warcraft nerd. Yeah, I love the movie. I think has some really great CGI and it's got some fun characters, but you have no idea what's going on if you don't know the content behind it. So definitely agree.
It's a weird sloppy mess.
Yeah, definitely.
Of a movie. I'm pretty good after all these years of figuring out what's happening in a movie. I had no idea what was happening in Warcraft, and I didn't care.
Yeah, it's it's not well done. It's a cute movie. It's a movie for if you're a Warcraft fan, you're like, oh, that's cute how they did that. Oh, I never saw it that way. And that's pretty.
But you would
much
say
as
it's
much
like
as
a
you're gonna get
fan
out of it.
project.
Yeah, it's basically like a fan film. Like if you go on YouTube and you see those really high quality fan films and you're like, oh man, this is really well done. It's like, just give that like a movie budget. And that's basically what Warcraft is.
They were trying to do that with Halo for a while, I think. Peter Jackson was like slated to direct a few.
Yeah, there's been a lot of like video game adaptations in film. And
it gets wild.
It just doesn't translate. Usually, there are, of course, a couple exceptions. I can't think of any
Except
right now.
Assassin's Creed, man. Holy crap.
Yeah, I mean,
what
apparently, just the best film that I refuse to see.
Justin Kurzel knocked it out of the park again. After Macbeth.
All right, but Moon. That's what we're talking about, folks.
Alex,
we're talking about Moon.
Alex, have you seen Duncan Jones movies?
No, I'm looking at him right now. And I did some research before this, and like I did see also that he was David Bowie's son. And then was Mute not supposed to be like kind of like a sequel or like an epilogue to Moon?
It has some stuff on TV that relate to relates to the ending of Moon,
Okay.
which I won't spoil. And before we jump into Moon, I just want to say, like, if you haven't seen Moon, seriously, go watch it before you listen to this, because listening to us talk about it will spoil what makes it amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
It just will. Like, if you like good science fiction that's not, Chris Pratt in the Tomorrow War, like smart science fiction that's really well done and cerebral and like metaphysical, it's like existential. It's just really good. And there's a pretty significant turn that it takes that we're going to spoil. And you owe it to yourself, if you're a sci-fi fan, to go watch it first.
Definitely. It's like not one of those twists, or like it's not a thematic element that we can throw out the window without discussing the movie, and it will spoil the energy and like the spirit of the movie, really. I mean, if anyone listening doesn't mind, I guess do whatever you want, but seriously, you shouldn't listen to this until you go and watch the film. And it's not a huge endeavor or anything like that. I think it's
actually
around
a short
90
film.
minutes
No,
long.
it's 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's a short film. It's very
It's
cut and dry. It does what it needs to do, and it gets out quick.
Yeah, and it's great.
Yep.
So all that said, let's get into spoilers. 3, 2, 1. Let's talk about Sam Rockwell talking to himself.
Yep. Let's talk about Sam Rockwell. Just really, I believe, kind of coming into a different type of role. I mean, he's always been, to me, Sam Rockwell is in that category with like, oh boy, we just did him in Mank.
We're talking about Jake Gyllenhaal?
No, Gary Oldman. Like, he's always
Okay.
like, he's in the movies. He's always these great in-depth characters, but people who don't really watch movies can't ever really put their finger on that person's name.
He's often a side character.
Yeah.
Or
He's
character
not
actor,
generally. Yeah, he's more a character actor. He's not generally the lead
Exactly.
of a movie.
He was in The Green Mile, and he's just, Sam Rockwell has just always played every character really strongly. But giving him the
boy.
lead in this movie was so unique and such an interesting decision, because he's the lead in a movie in which there's a second lead, which is also him, but two very different versions.
Yeah, they're kind of like two different characters, even though they're the same person.
It's so brilliant. Like again, we're gonna say it. Spoiler: the clone Sam Rockwell is, which I believe his name is Sam in the movie.
They're both clones. Yeah,
Yes.
they're both Sam Bell.
Sam Bell, that's right. So Sam, this clone.
Jeff,
Sam, all right, yeah. Sorry, I'm getting off track.
Well, I was just gonna say, do you want to like set up the plot real
Sure,
quick
I-
and
yeah.
tell us why you chose this film?
Yes. Okay. So I chose Moon because Moon is a movie that, I don't know, I feel slides under a lot of people's radars. It's just a really strong, solid, cerebral sci-fi, as Jesse was saying. It's a film that speaks to me because I really like the isolation aspect of it. So the plot of Moon is essentially Earth has a horrendous energy problem. I mean, who could have guessed it? And in order to remedy that, we've basically created, as far as Earth, has created a mining facility on the moon that needs to be manned. It's mostly automated, but it needs to be managed by one man and a AI that follows him around. And
Played by Kevin Spacey.
voiced by Kevin Spacey. So, at least you're spared.
No, he was in the robot.
He was in the robot, just like R2D2. No, so he's voiced by Kevin Spacey, so you're spared actually having to see that fucker's face, but you're still kind of subject to this very monotone, which I actually really like the performance. It's very monotone, it's very off-putting, but yeah, this character Sam Bell works on the moon on this mining facility. That sends the mining materials back to Earth, and he is desperate to finish his, I guess we would call it, mandatory
Tour of duty?
tour. Yeah, I guess that would be how we would call it. He signed up for a tour manning this
3
station,
years.
3 years, and he is coming to a close, and he is dirty, and he's got a big beard and long hair, and he's got a little bit of cabin fever. He's tend to name things, and
He talks to his plants
Yep.
and like decides that they have relationships with each other. Like, oh, Greta's been giving you the eye, Bob.
And he's made a miniature of, I believe, the town. Fairfield, yeah, the town he lives in. And so he's made a miniature of that, and so he's a family man. He's very interested to get home, and that's where really the plot starts. Is this man finishing up his tour of duty?
Yeah, we find out that he's a clone. There's like some fuckery going on with the filmmaking, to where you think he has an accident and wakes up, but then he goes and finds his other version in the accident, and you figure out that they're clones. Well, they figure out that they're clones, because before that you're kind of like, you're wondering what's happening. At least I think so. I saw it when it came out, which was over a decade ago, so I guess we can go to Alex here and be like, did you guess what was happening? Like, what did you feel like was happening? Because Jeff and I had seen this before, but you had not.
So I didn't. Obviously, something was fishy, right? But I thought it was just when he crashes into the harvester and like kind of passes out, seeing like the dust build up on the window, and then wakes up. We're introduced to Sam waking up again. I thought, I just like put it down to like, oh, this is a sci-fi movie. It's so far into the future that they have like Gertie, Kevin Spacey's robot character. He has like there's some medical procedure that if someone gets hurt, they'll bring him back to the main base and wake them up and heal them. And then you get introduced to the new Sam, the new clone, right? That's when I started to realize, wait a second, like something not, I don't want to say nefarious, right? Because
something is going on.
It sounds too malicious, but something strange is going on, and it starts really with the new Sam waking up and being kind of disoriented, and he hears Gertie having a straight up live conversation with the Earth, which is like, in this movie, it's supposed to be impossible. Like, all of the messages that they keep getting back and forth are ones that are like, this was recorded however many months ago, however many moons ago, to reach your destination. But
nice.
Yeah, as someone who had never seen the movie, I just took that scene of seeing Sam waking up in the medical bay as like, oh, they got him, like he's safe now. And then right after that scene is when the movie starts to unravel it for you.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agreed. It's a movie that definitely is all about the ambiance. It's all about the scenery, the set. The set is like, I would consider a major character in this film. Wouldn't you agree, Jesse?
Oh yeah, Duncan Jones' eye for detail is great. It feels very lived in. It also points to, like, this movie was made for $5 million.
Yeah.
Which is nothing.
I know.
That is nothing in the grand scheme of things. Like we talked about Christopher Nolan's new movie. That was made for what, $85 trillion or something like that. And it's like, movies don't need to cost so much. And it's curious that this is his best movie, and his movies get worse as they get bigger, because it's like, it's one set. All the stuff that's outside of the base is miniatures, and they look great. There's not a lot of CGI or anything.
Yeah.
And it's one actor. Yeah, like one actor, one set, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's almost like a small little sci-fi stage performance. Yeah, the way that the story is told and the themes that it's presenting, the fact that it's just one actor acting with themselves, it definitely has that feel to it. And we usually talk a lot about score on this podcast, and I really want to talk about lack thereof in this movie. It's such a quiet movie. It's you can almost hear a pin drop in everything that's going on. When he's doing the miniatures, excuse me, he's like slowly kind of chipping away and carving away or painting. You can like hear the brush. They almost like turned up a lot of the Foley for the effects. Mm-hmm. It's just a very quiet, claustrophobic and confined space, and that really suits this kind of manic personality that I guess we'll call him Sam 1 has. Mm-hmm. compared to Sam 2 has this very like almost McConaughey-esque like cool to him. I felt very McConaughey vibes from Sam 2.
So I'm glad you said that, actually, because I think Sam 2 is very indicative of actual, like, almost an homage to previous leading men or leading characters who take up the bulk of the film. So when he's wearing his flight suit with the Ray-Bans, it's almost like Maverick from Top Gun. And then there are scenes where he holds his body in a way like Travis Bickle holds his body in Taxi Driver. And he has like those glasses on, and he's kind of like sauntering over Sam 2 as he does his thing. He's like really into, working out and stuff like that. So there's like a really interesting like callback to stuff like that. And I'm glad you said something about that as well, because I didn't even think of McConaughey, but it's definitely there. There's something with Sam 2 that is like, I don't know. It's so cool to see two clones of the exact same person be just totally different characters. One on the tail end of his contract who's kind of just like, Jesus, man, all I care about is doing my fucking model, and my plants. And the other one is like, no, I'm all about figuring out what's going on. Like, he's like the action hero, right?
Yeah, well, it's almost like the naivete of the character. You can see how, like, when he came to this place, quotes, air quotes, came to this place, he's ready to go. He's fresh on his tour. He's ready to calculate and make power for the planet. And you can see this disillusion of that mission, that goal. And it's almost like they're speaking about almost the replaceability of the worker. It's like you can get this much, you can wring this much out of a person before they're hollow and empty and just want to go home.
Yeah, well, the clones die. The clones die after 3 years. They're based on, like, I guess there was a real Sam Bell at some point. They eventually communicate. They get a communication out, and they talk to their quote-unquote daughter. It is, and it's not their daughter. And, they hear the real Sam Bell in the background, and it's just a punch in the gut.
Yep.
But yeah, dude, watching Sam Rockwell act opposite himself with these two different characters who are both the same character is wonderful. And just it's like it speaks to how would it be, right? How would it be if you interacted with yourself with like the same kind of memories but with a very different couple of years behind them? And it's like there's a dominance thing going on. There's just all these different elements at play within the relationship of the two of them that's so interesting to watch, and it's so well done as well.
Oh yeah, it's like this idea of, would you hate yourself if you knew yourself?
I was thinking about that. I was like, what if I was hanging out with Jesse and it was like, so do you want to watch a movie? And like me being the contrary asshole that I am, be like, no, dude, I don't want to watch that one. Let's watch this other one. It's like, dude, you're me though. Like,
Yeah.
why are you being an asshole about this?
Yeah, and exactly, and there's this possessiveness. Like they both really feel like the father of this child and the husband to this wife. You know what I mean? Like they both have this sense of like, I'm the real Sam. And that is a concept that has been done in clone movies before, but I think you can do a concept many times and do it wrong many, many times. And if you can take it and do it right once, that's when it becomes memorable. Mm-hmm. And this is what this movie does. Is the clone, like, the double clone where I'm the real one. No, I'm the real one. That's been done so many times. But the way it's done here is so personal and sad, and you just feel your heart broken for this original Sam as his body falls apart, because these clones don't just die, they literally fall apart.
Yeah, because
they're not meant to be going on as long as they have been. So this first Sam is falling apart. His teeth are falling out, and it's just such a sad environment. And I think that speaks a lot to like the claustrophobia that we were talking about before, and the kind of confined aspect and the kind of dry, flat tone of Gertie, like very uncaring, because to Gertie, this is Sam number, 30, 40, 50. So it's like the flat tone makes sense.
He's uncaring, but he's also kind of the hero. He helps, like, you think the whole time, you're like, okay, Kevin Spacey doing a robot. You're like, you get the evil 2001
Hal.
Space Odyssey vibes, the Hal vibes.
Yeah, exactly.
And but they do a little switcheroo, I guess,
Mhm.
because Gertie helps him. He's like, my directive is to help Sam and to keep him safe. And so they mess with his logic slightly.
They
by,
do,
like,
yeah.
like, Gertie, help us be safe, you know. So Gertie helps them to essentially, you know, send one of the Sams back to Earth and call the company out.
I loved that, actually. I loved how they started the movie off with this really dark, ominous tone of like, oh, it's the corporation and it's the robot that has set you up. It's kind of like Aliens vibe, you know, like, oh, we were actually sent here to become hosts for this alien so they can do research back in the lab, you know. And it's this whole like hegemonic force in the movies that are like, it's just this guy now against like everything that he's known, and he has to like tear down all that he's known. But Gertie helps him, and like Gertie ends up being a very compassionate and like not like Hal in any way. Like, not like, I don't know, he has the monotone voice down perfectly, but it's like, even when he's like, what's wrong, Sam? You maybe want to talk about it. It's like, there's something there with Gertie that it's like, I don't know, he's caring. It's really interesting, because the beginning of the movie, I'm like, oh, this thing's getting disassembled, right? Like,
Evil robot.
yeah, he's going into
evil
the
robot.
I need to go into the motherboard and like, you know, shut down Gertie or some shit like that.
It doesn't have any of those like schlocky
Exactly,
plot elements.
yeah.
It's just like an understated character drama starring Sam Rockwell as two people.
And it is very
And
personal, exactly.
Kevin Spacey as a robot.
Yeah.
And there's no action. The only action scene is like when the two Sams like pathetically fight each other.
Yeah.
And it's just like kind of sad, and it's, I don't know. This movie makes you feel things.
Yeah,
made
it
me feel
does,
things.
yeah.
It's definitely a hit you in the feels kind of movie. Well, it's also, it's a bit of just an experiment. This movie is like, you're taking a little bit of money and injecting all of these just cool elements of sci-fi movies that we love. This movie is almost a casserole of really great sci-fi elements that
like which ones? If it was made from the elements of other movies,
okay,
which
so
movies
like
would you say?
so like I really love the kind of grounded, lived-in aspect that this movie has. It's hard for me to compare it to other movies. I'm not really the greatest on the spot when it comes to just like referencing things off the top of my head. It's just a feeling that I have from sci-fi elements that I really enjoy, like a really strong hero, but then that hero falling from grace. Like, you have the fall from grace.
Well, we can workshop it. So like a really great lived-in sci-fi atmosphere that's kind of dingy. I would say Alien.
Yeah.
Like the whole space truckers vibe going on there.
Mm-hmm.
And this has the kind of like the confined compartments and like kind of just like hallway to hallway to hallway aspect that Alien did, but then it kind of turns that on its head because it opens it up a little bit with this like rec room and this hobby area. So that's kind of what I mean. Is it's taking these loved sci-fi elements and then flipping them a little bit. You have Hal with the robot, with Gertie, the kind of comparison you guys were making where you're like, oh, I think this robot's going to be evil. Oh, no, we're going to flip it a little bit and make it...
Because that's what movies do.
Subvert your expectations. Like, I don't know, this movie was just a little example of that. It's just like, it's a sci-fi lovers movie, I believe. And I think that's why I kind of mentioned, like, it falls under a lot of people's radars. And if you're a really big lover of sci-fi like I am, I just think this movie is an essential pick.
If you love sci-fi because of the CGI and the tech and everything, this probably isn't the movie for you, because I think it's very human. But the paneled walls look like they've been opened thousands of times by other clones and workers, you know? Like, the way he writes his name, he gives things little names like Luke and Bob and Greta, stuff like that.
He puts little stickers on like the robot. He puts "Kick Me" on the back of it.
There's an old coffee mug just chilling.
There's a coffee mug.
There's so many coffee rings all over Gertie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it works for a sci-fi fan. It's more like I don't know. It's more like along the realms of speculative fiction.
Yeah.
Because it's not super, like as Alex says, it's not super sci-fi. This isn't Blade Runner or anything. It's one guy on a vaguely futuristic moon base with a sci-fi robot, granted, but like I don't know, they could probably do that now. Like let's be real.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
But it's like it's more, the core of it is more just like the existential element.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, I'm not me, and there's another me, and there have been countless other me's they don't even know, and they find the underground like bunker thing with all the other clones.
Mhm.
And it's just like stretches off into the distance, and you're like, why are there so many? Yeah. I mean, just a really like interesting concept, really well handled and really well acted.
Yeah, it's like this movie is like a delicious meal served on a very simple plate. It's like you're just
$5 million plate.
It's like the plate is what it's delivered on is a simple set, simple kind of it's done well, but simple characters or character, I guess if you could call Gertie a character, and then you just go on and talk about these very high concepts, which I think is really a smart move. Like I mean, just the idea of automating a human. They've automated this whole moon process. They have these big harvesters that are gathering the materials, kind of combing the moon, and then you just need this one guy in order to keep it all running. Why not automate that guy?
No, I know. There's a cruelty behind that like corporations like greed. You know, like why are you giving these guys like consciousness? Like why are you giving them empathy? Why are you causing them to be creatures that can feel pain? Why don't you just make a billion Gerties that go out and scrape the surface of the moon? Like
exactly, it's like this idea of like keeping him hanging on by this like this desire to see his family is so cruel. And
yeah, they feed him these messages from his wife, and once you've seen it before, if you look closely, you can see someone's like pants to the right of her on the message, and you're like, oh, that's the real Sam.
Oh,
You're telling her what to say.
Yeah, I never even caught that. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
There's like there's little tricks like that. It's kind of just a weird little movie. It deals with concepts that are so much bigger than what it's trying to present. And I think that's where it kind of catches you off guard and allows it to interject its little feelers into your mind.
You mean trying to present, or like what it presents initially? Because I mean, I think it sets out what it is trying to do very well.
It's more like what it's trying to do is to subvert your expectations, and it does that very well. But I don't think that
I hate that phrase.
I know, that's why I said it.
Okay,
yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah, because you fucking hit me with the love letter bullshit last episode.
The love letter to the movies.
A love letter to subverting your expectations.
Oh god, that's probably one of the worst sentences ever made. No,
welcome to Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Oh god, I've lost the thread of what I'm going into here. But basically,
we were talking about how The Last Jedi is a solid piece of filmmaking.
Yeah,
and
that's
scripting.
what I was talking about. I love that.
I like the casserole metaphor, honestly, because I think this movie, when you guys are talking about it being like very personal, it's like a casserole that someone brings over at a dinner party that looks simple. It's on a simple dish, whatever. But when you taste it, it's kind of like, oh my god, this is like Ratatouille effect. Like this is my mother's casserole from when I was like 6 years old, right?
Yeah.
And it like, I don't know, this movie definitely hit me in like a very emotional way. After I got past like, ooh, it's a sci-fi whodunit, like who's like keeping him here, who's making copies of him, I was like, oh, this is simply like, what would a clone do if it met itself? And it's not some weird like there's going to be a rift in the time-space continuum and you guys are both going to explode or anything like that. It's like it's an honest portrayal of how you would show yourself meeting yourself in this
that's
weird environment.
And that's the difference, I think, from something like along the lines of like a Shyamalan, where it's like
Yeah.
in a dumbass Shyamalan movie.
Yeah.
The fact that like him finding out he's a clone would be the apex. It would be the big
Yeah,
twist. And you're
seriously.
like, oh, okay, but here that's the groundwork. That's the basis upon which you build this amazing character drama. It's funny that I said Shyamalan because I was in looking at his filmography, I started to think about him as kind of a Shyamalan. I was
Same.
like, oh, he
Same.
started out good, just getting worse and worse. Maybe we'll see.
I mean, what you're talking about is not a concept that's like foreign. You know, like this happens to like great directors all the time. You know,
It does.
They get popular. They start getting a little more creative influence. They start being able to kind of feel like they can spread out, and they're not as creative.
It doesn't usually happen this quickly, though.
I mean, maybe that's
I'll give him some leeway here. He's only made 4 movies. He's a good visual filmmaker. I just think, I don't know, he should probably never get near a script after seeing Mute.
I mean,
But we'll see.
he's made one bad movie in my mind, so it's like it's a little bit of a different take.
I do think that your analysis, though, Jeff, is fair. Because if you liked 3 out of his four movies, I couldn't expect you to say, like, oh, this director is not good, right?
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Because there's obviously something he's doing that you kind of like.
It makes sense
But-
for you, definitely. For me, I didn't hate Warcraft. I just didn't like it as a total flatline. But for me, it's more so that it's been such a consistent, like, moving down
That's
the number
definitely true.
scale. You know,
That's definitely true. He's not made anything.
Did he
close
write
to Moon.
Moon?
he.
Sorry,
I
didn't
believe
see that in my research.
I believe that he has a screenwriting credit along with someone else
Nathan
for each
Parker.
movie.
Yeah.
So like
Oh, okay.
I think he does the story and then someone else writes the script, or he has a partner. I'm not exactly sure, but Mute especially shows that whatever like process he has is pretty flawed right now.
Got it. Because Moon was like the dialogue was very natural. I mean, this lends to Sam Rockwell's performance as well. You can say what you want about Kevin Spacey. He's still he's a talented actor,
sure.
right? He's a talented crafter of his roles, and I don't know. They just both like
They nail it.
Sam Rockwell is like a leading man skill wise. Like he has that in his wheelhouse, but he is like a character actor leading man, which sometimes is honestly can work out beautifully. Like, because character actors, like, they are so good at like giving body to characters with only 2-3 minutes of screen time, you know? And to put that type of actor into this role is just like, I don't know, it makes it very real and cumulative and like a comprehensive character. And the funny thing is that they're literally clones. And it's like, I don't know, they just have so much life and body to them. They're so vivified.
Well, I think that's part of the point. I mean, the only humans that you see beyond these like 2 corporate representations that are supposed to be recordings is Sam. He's the only human that you meet.
Yeah, the only humans you see are clones. He even turns to Gertie
Yeah.
at one point. He's like, "We don't have programming, Gertie. We're people."
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish Sam Rockwell had more leading roles. I would watch him.
Oh, definitely. He did a few recent ones, I know, that where he was a little bit bigger of a role. It's like a few billboards out of Missouri or something like that, and then something about serial killers where he has like a split personality into like 7 different people or something
No,
like that.
that's James McAvoy.
No, not
Not
that,
Split.
not Split.
Okay.
This one has like his personalities are played by different actors. Like Christopher Walken, I believe, is one. He's like Sam Rockwell's like a writer who is dealing with like mental health issues or something like that, and he has all of these little vignettes of going out into life and whatnot where he's like a different personality. But going back to Moon, at least, I actually really liked how like the movie didn't fall into kind of like, we're making a movie about space and like sci-fi, so we're gonna keep showing these like planet shots. It did it very sparingly, and I thought it did it very well. You know, there wasn't like this idea of like, oh my god, there's like interstellar travel. It's like, no, they did a really good job of just showing like the really simple drudging tasks of being like a contracted worker on the moon. And I think that the set plays a huge role in that.
Definitely. I mean, it's the all, as I said, all the outside stuff is just practical effects, all miniatures.
Done well.
Yeah,
Done
that's
very
awesome.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and once you know that, they're really charming. You're like, oh, those are great.
Yeah. Exactly.
It has such a it's such a little, I don't know, it warms your heart far more than just some CGI, you know. You're like, oh, you had to like put effort into this. Not that CGI artists don't put an effort. You guys know what I mean. You know what
exactly.
I mean.
We're just crotchety old people who like old ways that films were made. So just don't pay any
I
attention.
like hands.
Yeah, I like practical effects.
I will always choose practical over.
When I was writing the
digital.
Alien 3 review, or watching Alien 3 even, I was like, every time the alien shows up and it's a rubber puppet, it looks amazing. Because it's like covered in goo and you're like, oh, it's like tactile. Just has this coolness about it. And then in the shots where it's CG from 1992, you're like, oof. Oof.
Oh
yeah.
CGI in the 90s.
Oh, I miss it. I mean, except if you're talking Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park still looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie fucking
That was
kicked
like
ass. But then, George Lucas was like, oh, I want to put creatures in my movies, too.
I'm going to redo Star Wars with
Yeah.
big dinosaurs in it. And nobody can see the originals because I'm going to take my toys and go home. Like, fuck you, George Lucas.
Seriously.
Let me have my movies back. I don't want to have like a Disney dance and song number in Jabba's dingy palace. What are you doing?
I know. Like,
oh my god.
God damn it,
So
George.
good.
I think that's even like part of his stipulation for selling it to Disney is like you cannot re-release the movies that people like.
yeah.
You have to keep these garbage versions. It's like,
Oh.
no.
It's such a representation of a director just being like so obsessed with their own version of things. Like, no, I wanted this the whole time. This is gonna make the movie better, and like everyone's just like, no, it doesn't.
I blame all the fan fiction. He probably just read it all. and
George
was
Lucas has
stewing for,
never
decades.
once read a fan fiction because
George Lucas has no idea what makes Star Wars interesting.
Yeah,
No idea.
Exactly.
And to be frank, Jesus Christ, that's
Hello,
staying in.
frankly.
That's staying in. To be frank, George Lucas, like, nobody really does. Nobody has any idea what makes Star Wars interesting. That's why all the Star Wars movies are terrible.
I mean, it has the hero's journey pretty much like copied,
It's like
Joseph
it's
Campbell
really
style.
simple. Yeah, all you need is like a good script with like that's basically just like a really fun sci-fi adventure. You need to have characters that have personalities and motivations and have all of that cohere. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, but even the original Star Wars movies are like, you know?
The acting is
I
not
disagree.
good. I think he plays that on like, oh, these are based on, the old Buck Rogers serials and things like that, where the acting was never the focal point of like the story. But the first one, like A New Hope, I actually think is an extremely well constructed movie. Alec Guinness, like, I think is amazing in it. And I don't know, it's just there's something about the movies that were like, it's just so quintessential boiled down hero's journey that like, I don't know what the moviescape was like or the aura was like in the 1970s, late 70s when it came out, but it was almost like very refreshing, I guess, from some of the critical analysis I've read of it. And I don't know, it's so easy to turn into a trope though. It's so easy to piss away all of the goodness of Star Wars by like milking
The original
it.
Star Wars are good for kids. Like when you're a young kid, like, sure, well, give them the original trilogy. But as an adult, I just find them to be like, they're like songs that I've heard too many times.
I could see that.
Like
but,
they're like
yeah.
Crazy
looking at
Train by
the
Ozzy.
construction of it and the characters, like
Yeah,
dude,
it's all good.
Empire is one of the greatest movies ever made.
I like Crazy Train by
perfect.
Ozzy. I think it's a good song. It's catchy and it's interesting. I never want to hear it again. All
right.
It's like that's
Fair enough.
kind of how I feel about Star
I don't
Wars.
think he even directed Empire. He had his buddy Irving Kershner
Yeah.
do it for him because he was having like health issues. Like George Lucas had a heart attack, but probably because
Too busy
he
counting
was like,
his money.
exactly, and he was probably like, let's put this in here and this in here, and people had to be like, yo, do you even know what your story is about? And then he just,
Well,
I don't know.
I think
he had a heart attack.
That's where Jedi comes in, where you have the Ewoks and everything kind of falls apart a little bit. It's still a good movie, but it's definitely the weakest of the three. And you can see George Lucas being like, I want to turn these into toys now.
Yeah, I know, seriously.
It's all about the money for him.
Oh, shit. Hasbro. Like, all of these fucking, like, anything that can be used and turned into a plastic figurine. Just, he's like, yes.
Yeah, I mean...
He's Palpatine, dude. He's just... he's sucked the life force out of his own... I don't know.
Well, I mean...
Let's talk about how bad Star Wars is.
Yeah.
On our, movie podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's not get generic or anything.
Yeah, won't go too much further, but the new ones suck as well.
If you didn't know.
Yeah.
If you were
Just
unaware.
watch Moon.
If you lived
Just
under
in
a
case you didn't
fucking
know.
rock.
Yeah, we could probably complain about Star Wars for an hour, but so does like every other podcast, whether it's a movie podcast or not. So we'll just
have
end
to
up getting
finish
to it naturally in bits and pieces, complaining about Star Wars because you just have to, right? It just comes up.
Do you?
It's something that can't not come up.
Do you have to give that genre any more attention? Can it just die?
What, sci-fi?
No, sorry, not
Cerebral
not
sci-fi.
genre. That series, that franchise.
Series, franchise.
Give that
yeah.
franchise, just let it go. Just let it die.
Yeah, I didn't even see the third one. I was just like, I'm done. I don't care. It's 0% care.
No.
But anyway,
But yeah, I mean,
watch Moon.
being 5 million, like, it shows you what you can do, like how far you can stretch. I mean, even a decade ago, $5 million is not a lot of money for 2009. Like, it's nothing. You know, it's like a few marbles to chew on.
Yeah, 12 Monkeys was made on a budget in 1995, and that had 20 million.
See, exactly. Like this, you can do so much with clean, tight filmmaking, shots that revolve around the interaction of like practical effects and the living character. It's so... I don't know. I really enjoyed this movie. I'm the only one, I think, out of the two who hadn't seen it for the first time. I refrain from saying this movie's like...
Am I
what?
a clone?
Yeah. Yes, you didn't know that.
I'm an illusion. I've never been here.
I'm Gertie.
So I'm a clone,
But no.
Jeff's an illusion, and Alex is Gertie.
Yep.
Okay. Glad we got that settled.
Yeah. I don't know where this is going.
No, it's going nowhere. Abort!
Exactly.
Abort!
Abort.
Send me back. My contract is over.
Oh, I think, yeah. Watch Moon.
I was going to say, I refrain from calling this movie cute.
It is, though.
But, like, it is, right? Like, it's, like, in a very good way. And it's, like, endearing. And I don't know. I thought it was really good.
I'm glad. I fucking love this movie. It's always one I'll come back to. It's always one I'll watch over and over again. It's quick. It's a tight 90. And it's just...
Yeah.
It does what it needs to do. Like I said in the beginning, it gets out. And Sam Rockwell is always just fun to watch him, really.
I was sad that I couldn't, like, press a button and not know what happens in the movie.
Yeah.
Because I think it does take away from it, for me at least, knowing what's going on. Because I recall distantly how enraptured I was in the tone of it at the first time and trying to understand what was happening. Because it's just, that does create its own atmosphere of tension where you don't know what's going on in the film. Yeah, so I don't know if it lends itself to endless rewatching. I guess it does for Jeff.
Yeah, but that's just who I am. I'm just a rewatcher. It's just what I do.
Yeah.
That is true, though. There are other movies that seem sometimes to kind of hold their sting a little bit. And this one's kind of like a bee. It's like once it stings you, it's like, I don't know. There's something about it that, like, it doesn't die. I don't want to make that analogy to the bee. It just, I don't know.
No, it's very rewatchable. mostly due to the performances and
Yeah.
the set and everything. But it's not like
You're never going to get that same. It's like heroin. You're never going to get that same hit that first time.
Yeah.
That first time it's
Whereas-
going to hit you, and you're like, oh my God. And then the more you watch it, you're like, I like this movie. It's cute.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
something.
It's like The Usual Suspects almost.
There you go. That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I watched a movie recently that we'll be covering soon when we do our Paul Thomas Anderson discussion. But man, rewatching Boogie Nights, every time I watch that movie, I love it even more. I find so much more in it, the filmmaking, the everything. We'll get into it.
I can't wait to watch it for the first time with you.
Oh yes, yeah. We're gonna do our Paul Thomas Anderson thing. I actually just watched it, so you'll have to watch that one on your own.
Oh, you won't watch it again with me?
There are other ones that I need to get to that we can watch.
All right, yeah, that sounds good.
But yeah, Moon. Sweet ass movie.
Oh, couple little, I don't know. This is, I guess, interesting to me. There are a couple actors in Moon that are pretty prominent British actors that have a very small spot as the two corporate.
I have a question for you, Jeff. Sorry, before you
All right,
continue.
whatever. Just cut me off.
I'm sorry. It's about this.
Just
It's
cucking
about
him.
this, though.
Just cucking him hard.
Is one of them in a show called The IT Crowd?
Yeah, it's Matt Berry.
Okay, that's all.
Matt
That's
Berry-
it.
Yeah, so Matt Berry, he's in the IT Crowd. That's probably his most famous American crossover role. He's also in a couple really hilarious British shows I recommend, Snuffbox and Toast of London. Those are very funny. But yeah, Matt Berry. And then Benedict Wong, which is interesting. Benedict Wong, as we all know, from probably most famous role would be Doctor Strange. He was also in The Martian. Oh, he's in Annihilation too.
Wait, what are you guys talking about?
These were the two corporate guys in the pre-recordings, or then in the one live footage that you have Gertie talking to them. Those two guys, they're very, very low res in the camera, so it's hard to catch who they are, which I think is on purpose. But I just thought it was interesting that it's Benedict Wong and Matt Berry, just kind of two prominent actors that just kind of had this like little throwaway role as these two corporate guys. So I just thought that was interesting.
Gotcha. Yep.
Especially Benedict Wong. I mean, Benedict Wong's like a legitimately famous actor. Matt Berry's a little more eclectic. I mean, it's just funny that they both decided to
It's funny
be in this movie.
When I watched the credits, I saw Benedict Wong appear at the beginning of the film, and I almost thought for a second, I was like, did BD Wong like change his like name? Is like has BD always been Benedict?
From Law and Order?
Yeah, Law and Order, Jurassic Park. Like he's like the doctor. Or
That's
the
what I thought when you
know?
said Benedict Wong. That's where my mind went. I was like, the scientist in Jurassic Park?
Yeah,
No,
like
not BD Wong. No, Benedict Wong. The Doctor Strange. He's in Annihilation. He always plays like the smart kind of engineer character.
yeah, and then Matt Berry is the actor's name you said?
Matt Berry. Yeah, Matt Berry's the other guy. Yeah,
I just heard his voice and I was like, is this the guy from the IT Crowd? I thought that
Damn
was
you,
funny.
electric sex pants.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Over my head right now. I don't watch TV shows. I got too many movies to watch.
Yeah, IT Crowd's hilarious. But yeah, Toast of London's really good. So yeah, that's just a little interesting factoid that I saw in there. But otherwise, yeah, Moon. Watch it, please.
Watch it.
It's a good one.
So, gents, before we wrap up, things we watched this week that merit a few words, whether positive or negative. Alex, you got one?
I do. It's a little bit older, or a lot older, I guess, depending on who's listening. But it's called The Man Who Never Was.
I don't know this one.
Sounds familiar.
It's a film about British intelligence in World War II. Let's say they got up to some shenanigans. England's intelligence service was like the premier, like one of the best intelligence services during World War II. I mean, you had to be, right? The world was literally at war, and you needed to figure out what the fuck was going on.
England getting up to some shenanigans? You don't say. Those rapscallions.
Exactly. So it's about, the plot is about, and this isn't giving anything away, it's like a well-known military operation where they decided to drop a cadaver into the Mediterranean Sea, I believe somewhere near Gibraltar, so towards the entrance of the Mediterranean Sea, with fake attack plans in his body, or planted on his like uniform, so that he would be found by either the Italians or the Germans, and it was going to throw them off the scent of what the English were actually doing. So the movie is about the whole construction of the scheme and everything, and about the pushback and like the dangers of trying to keep this under wraps, and people saying, no, we're going to blow this cover and things like that. Very interesting movie.
What a clever ploy. Those clever
I know.
tea drinking,
British.
biscuit munching bastards.
So it's like one of the more fun older movies I'd seen. I believe it's made in the mid 60s.
Who's in it?
So it's not like
anyone I know?
So old. I actually don't know a lot of the people that are in it. They are very British. Like, it might have been a British production that was separate from Hollywood, which I don't know how often that happened in the 1960s.
What's it called?
Seemed like mid-20th
The Man Who
century.
Never Was.
Yes.
56.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, I don't know any of these actors or this director. Interesting. Okay, I'll have to.
It has a pretty good rating, I think, critically.
I'll have to add
I haven't
this
looked
to my
at
list. Word. Jefferson Twilight. You got one?
Yeah, it's pretty. It tracks for me.
Yeah.
I just rewatched the 1995 Othello with Lawrence Fishburne.
Fishborn.
Yep, I always used to say it like that, and it's kind of still stuck.
Mr.
Yeah,
Anderson.
It's an amazing Shakespeare adaptation. It's more supposed to be like the story. It's not an adaptation as like Romeo plus Juliet or something more modern. It's just supposed to be the story. It's really well done.
Got Kenneth Branagh in it.
Yep, Kenneth Branagh, Lawrence Fishburne,
some other people.
good old.
Is Branagh Iago?
Yep,
Okay. Well,
Yeah, Michael
that makes
Sheen in
perfect
there.
sense.
it's a good old film. I recommend it. It's I mean, if you like Shakespeare, that is.
Yeah, right.
Probably my favorite Shakespeare character of all time.
Othello.
Oh no, Iago.
Oh, Iago. Yeah, he's a bastard.
Yeah.
But he's a clever bastard. That is.
Yes, he is. I am what I am.
I got one. I almost made you guys do it for an episode.
Oh, Christ.
Because Alex Alex was so hateful towards it without seeing it, and because I need to see every big budget sci-fi movie, even if they're terrible. For whatever reason, I watched The Tomorrow War.
I mean, why do you even like? How dare you?
Is a big old piece of crap. It's like there was no way this movie wasn't going to be dumb. I just was fatal curiosity of wondering how dumb and how offensive it would be to me, being the douche that I am. And it wasn't okay. It is the summer movie. You know what I mean? It is.
Yeah.
It is Independence Day. It has all those elements. It has all those elements of like the contrite character arcs, unfunny moments where like every character being comedic relief at points. But it didn't make me angry, which is a point in its favor. It didn't make me like miserable in the way that a Roland Emmerich movie will. Let's dredge him up again. His name will keep coming up. Don't worry. It's the apex of bad. But it has some hilarious stuff where it's like aliens have invaded in the future, and so like future humans come back to present day, like 2020, and start recruiting people to go into the future to fight the war. Now, if your logical mind immediately thinks of 50 reasons this makes no sense, good. You have some intelligence. There are many different ways you could approach this situation, but the movie has its whatever bullshit throwaway logic. But the best moment in it comes early on when you have like people who are like over 40, because people who like you can't exist in two timelines at once because yada yada. So it's like people over 40 or people who will die soon. So you have Chris Pratt and a bunch of people who look like they should be stocking lettuce at your local Safeway, like fighting aliens in civilian clothing, and it's like hilariously stupid. I don't think the movie had any idea how stupid it was being. And it's a big old bag of dumb. You have all the setups, you have all these little things that are set up that are stupid that pay off. So at least there are setups and payoffs, but it is exactly what you think it is, and does nothing interesting, and
what was the budget for this one?
Too much.
Okay.
Tomorrow War probably like 500
You know what it
million.
felt like? It felt like a big budget asylum movie starring real actors with budget. It was very strange on that level. So that made it kind of interesting. Where you're like, this looks like it should have been made for $800,000 and starring like Mario Van Peebles or something. Yeah. So despite mildly enjoying some elements of it, ironically, I would not recommend it. Although it's already made it. It's already got a sequel in the plans. Because everybody watched
really?
it. Everybody watched it.
Yeah, it's already got a 9 movie deal with Chris Pratt being like Harrison Ford's age and hating his life by the time.
Right. You're like, why did I sign up for this?
Whoa.
Like, why did I
just-
take that bump of cocaine before doing the contract?
If you want to watch Chris
Seriously.
Pratt go shoot aliens, just watch Guardians of the Galaxy again.
Much
Hell
better.
It's
yeah.
a good.
Hell
That's a
yeah.
good movie. And that'll do it for us today. We will be back. The next episode, we're not exactly sure. We're taking our time with the Paul Thomas Anderson. It depends if we record another one in between or not. But the next might be Mr. Anderson, or it might be something else.
We'll see.
And with that, Reel Weirdos signing off. We'll see you next time. Thank you, my friends, for joining me.
We're out.
Good night. Good night.
And
you.
we'll catch you later. We'll catch you later. We'll catch you later.